So there was a lot of shame and stigma attached to this disconnection from the body piece, particularly for people who work in personal development. It can feel really uncomfortable to say, I'm doing this work, I've learnt this work, I'm sharing this work, and yet I still recognize for myself that I find it hard to connect into my body. I find it hard to feel my emotions. I find it hard to allow it all without judgment. And in that shame, in that stigma, you are missing the opportunity to deepen yourself, but also to integrate all of those different parts of you. And so I thought today I would just share a little bit about my journey and my experience of connecting in my body, into my body, with a view to destigmatizing and just taking out some of the shame of it. Because if I go back to when I left law in 2018, if you had asked me then if I was connected to my body or not, I'd have looked at you like it was a fucking stupid question for a start. And I would have said, well, of course I'm connected to my body. Like that would have been my level of awareness at that point in time. Move on to 2019. I work with my first coach. She starts recommending trauma books to me, which I find fascinating. I'm like, well, wonder why is she recommending trauma books to me? I haven't had any trauma. Maybe it's for my clients. Maybe it's for my clients. Move forward again. I've got all of this awareness is happening. I'm doing all of this work on my family patterns, the dysfunctions, some of the things that I've experienced. Still blissfully unaware of any body stuff. As far as I'm concerned, I have a body, it's doing what it needs to do. We're all good. Okay. 2021, I join a mastermind. And one of the ladies in that mastermind works with people on their trauma and their nervous systems. And one of the things we did in that space was we kind of did an overview of like how we help people and how we like to get really clear on like who do I support, how do I support them. And so this lady had put this written overview in the Facebook group. And I read it. And I read it and I was like, Nat, who, for those of you that don't know, is my husband, Nat would really benefit from this. Nat would really benefit from this. Now, at this point, I've got a lot of awareness about family stuff, narcissism in my family, dysfunctional behavior. I've got no contact with my parents. We're like 6 months into no contact. I'm reading all of this stuff and I'm not like, oh, this is what I need. I'm like, my husband would really benefit from this. Okay. So one of the things that was recommended in this mastermind was something called peer coaching. So you would meet up with other people in the group and you would coach them. And I'd sent this lady a message and said, oh, like we'll go through our offers, and then like we can have a chat about like trauma and nervous system stuff as well. And she messaged back because #boundaries, and she said, if you want to talk about trauma and the nervous system, that's a consult. Like that's a call to talk about working with me. And there was obviously just enough. There was like just enough of an awareness in myself that this might be a good idea. So I was like, yeah, okay, do you know what? We'll book a consult. And so I start to work with her, and she very slowly and very gently gives me some very simple tools to help me start to connect to my body. Or really, like she's just testing, like how connected is this person to her body? And the answer was very disconnected, basically. Like so a very, very simple tool was just to tap the back of your hand until you sort of felt the sensation of the back of your hand and just, this is my hand, it is part of my body, to sort of start to create that connection. The intensity with which I had to whack the back of my hand to feel that connection was something else. And I noticed, and there's a whole process that you go through of like different body parts. And I noticed even in doing that it felt a bit much. I could feel myself sort of zoning out and disconnecting because connecting into the body was so intense. And so then she sort of gave me an alternative. She was like, okay, well, we'll not start there. She's like, but if you're going to do that, do it when you're out in nature and you've got all of these resources around you. So she gave me an alternative. Um, and so this was like Marchish of 2021, so just over 5 years ago. And so from that space, and actually things did move really, really quickly for me. I went from being that level of disconnected to being so super connected and able to embody and work through all of this stuff. But when I did a certification with her, starting in did it start? Yes, so I'm looking at my certificate on the wall. So the certification started in 2021, the August of 2021, completed in May of 2022. And before that certification completed, she asked me to support her to facilitate embodiment sessions in the next round of the certification. So within the course of a year, I had gone from nothing, nothing to being so embodied, so in my body that I was then asked to go and help facilitate and teach other people to do this embodiment work. Okay. But it had to start. Like you can see, there was so much denial there, or like lack of awareness. But once I was aware, like I was then able to reconnect. But you have to get to that place at the start of actually, as much as I don't want to admit it, this is something that I need support with. This is something that I need help with. And if you think about like why we would be disconnected from our bodies, you know, I turned to food as a child, right? Food was my comfort. Food was my comfort, but that meant that I was a child in a bigger body than my peers. And I had a lot of, I heard a lot about that at home. I heard a lot about that at school. And so I were partly disconnected from my body because I was told that my body was gross. It didn't look the way it should. I wasn't attractive. It wasn't acceptable, right? But it was really this really tricky dynamic for me because it was like, but the stuff that was my comfort and my soothe, because I didn't have the emotional support that I needed at home. And so food became that thing, also was the thing that was making my body like bad and wrong in the words of the people around me. My body was not bad or wrong. Um and and so all of these different points like to create that disconnection. And we could do a whole nother video. And if you would like it, let me know and I will put it together on how we are deliberately and systemically disconnected to ourselves from ourselves, even at birth, like just a small example. Can't help myself. A child is born. What does that child need when it's first born? Skin on skin contact with the mother so that it can co-regulate. What happens? The child gets taken off a jab, right? So it's like from birth, all of these different things happen to deliberately disconnect us from ourselves. And then finding that connection back into the body is a beautiful, beautiful thing. But it's okay if you aren't there. What is less okay is trying to do this work and trying to share this work with others and wanting to facilitate body transformation with another person, if you are not willing to look at and go to the places that mean that you are still disconnecting from your body a lot of the time. Now, I'm not saying that we should be connected in our bodies constantly. I don't think that's achievable, attainable, or the goal, right? I do want you to start really just being honest with yourself. Like, have you looked at your stuff? Have you gone to the depths that mean that you can support and hold another person? Can you stay in your body regardless of what is going on? Can you feel and process emotion? Do you know how to do it with another person? And if you want a space where you can just come and be all of who you are, to work through this stuff, to learn it, to embody it for yourself, there is a massive difference between I've learned shadow work, I've learned parts work, I've learned about the nervous system, I've learned versus I've embodied. I've embodied, I've worked through, I've shifted, I've practiced. So I now can be a safe pair of hands with another person. That's a night and day difference, right? So it doesn't matter what you've learned so far. If you are aware that there are things that you have not embodied, then the embodied transformation practitioner certification is your place to come and spend 8 months with me to really learn how to do this work for yourself and then with your clients. And we do this work from the level of mindset and awareness, and then deeper psychological work, the shadow, the inner parts, our inner child, inner parts, they're like protective parts, our inner child. We look at the nervous system, we look at patterns and survival responses and negotiating a trauma resolution, but more from a place of developmental trauma and past trauma rather than like immediate shock trauma, because for the vast majority of people, a coach is not the right person to look at that, right? So this isn't me saying we can do it all, but if, like me, you had a childhood where your emotional needs weren't met and you know, mastered becoming a people pleaser, a perfectionist, and an overworker, these are things that we can support other people through to return to wholeness. I'm not going to be here telling you that I can teach you how to support someone who's just been raped because I do not have that skill set. So I sure as shit cannot give you that skill set, right? So it's all done very much with integrity. And then lastly, how do we reconnect someone back to their wholeness, their soul, their essence? Someone might think of it as like their higher self, their wisdom. Like it doesn't matter because I'm not here to dictate what somebody's version of that is, but it's looking at how do we integrate all of this, all of these different parts when we are walking alongside another person. And how do we do it in a one-on-one context, and how do we do it in a group context, and how do we do all of this safely? This is what we are covering in the certification. You can find out more about it below or in my bio if you're watching this on Instagram. And if this calls to you, then come and speak to me. You are very welcome to apply. And I hope this has helped a little bit to take out whatever it is that you are telling yourself about your disconnection to your body. And just a little gentle reminder that it takes as long as it takes, but also when you're ready and you know you are ready, these things can shift and move very, very fast. All right, take care, and I'll see you next time.